A new continent called Magmell appeared out of thin air 30 years ago, brimming with new species of flora and fauna as well as unique mineral resources. This led to a group of explorers, driven by wild ambition, who journeyed towards the new land in droves. A young man named Inyo arrives to rescue the explorers. Inyo is an angler and is charged with protecting and rescuing foolish travelers from the continent. A young girl called Zero tells Inyo that it's already noon, but he wants to sleep in for the day. She prepares him a plain piece of toast and explains that they don't have money for anything else and that their power will be cut off tomorrow. They hear a bell ringing at their front door and find Crix, a boy looking for the best angler. Crix asks Inyo to save his older brother Cunurus, but Inyo refuses as he doesn't have enough money until Crix explains he'll die soon and he can have his insurance money. Cunurus goes to Magmell to find the tear of Epona to heal Crix of his illness. However, only Cunurus returns home alive, and Crix blames himself for their parents' deaths. Inyo accepts Crix's request and takes him to the Bodoka mountain woods. Crix explains that the Epona fruit can return a body to full strength and improve physical abilities. Inyo calls it the tear of Epona because it only blooms atop a mountain of corpses. Inyo asks Crix if he wants to become an explorer after being healed, but Crix says he wants to be a latcher, a person who can construct physical objects at will, until they encounter a strange man asking for help. Crix tries to get Inyo to assist him, but Inyo warns them that they will die if they do. Inyo picks up a rock and throwing it toward the man, causing giant centipedes to come out of the ground. Inyo uses a power to kill the centipedes without Crix noticing. Then they are informed by Zero that a Prince Hawk nest is ahead, and Inyo instructs Crix to stay back while he continues ahead alone. Crix encounters his brother Cunurus, who takes him to the tear of Epona. However, the reunion turns dark when Crix notices the bones underneath the fruit. Cunurus stabs Crix in the back with a sharpened piece of bone, and the Epona blooms in full. Inyo arrives and tells Zero to help Crix. Inyo suspects that Cunurus murdered his parents and allies for the tear of Epona, and he decides to use the fruit for himself. Crix begs Inyo to save his older brother, believing he would not do such a thing. As Crix dies, Inyo attacks Cunurus, who eats the tear of Epona and buffs himself up but is easily defeated by Inyo. Just before he dies, Cunurus realizes Inyo is a latcher and recalls his brother's desire to assist him. Inyo buries him and his brother together, saving them. Inyo explains that the greatest danger of Magmell is not any plant or animal but how it amplifies greed and hatred within humans. In a research facility in the 7th ward of Magmell, scientists comment that they are on the verge of changing modern medical science. But the alarm then activates, and they realize they are under attack by a large horde of bear-like beasts. Following her father's instructions, Emilia goes to look for Inyo and requests that he help her save her father. Hearing about what her father's work is, Inyo doesn't recall knowing him and has no interest in helping out. She asks him again to reconsider, calling him Shuan. Hearing that, Inyo explains he is Inyo and not Shuan, but anything Shuan can do, he can do, and he accepts her request. Since Emilia's father works for a big company, they have their own private rescue party, and Inyo and Emilia join them on their way to Magmell. Emilia introduces Inyo as her little brother as she can't bring non-relatives. Heading towards the facility, Inyo and the rest of the party learn that the facility is under attack by a large horde of kell bears, a normally gentle animal that feeds upon minerals, but when angered, its skin turns to steel and becomes uncontrollably violent. Inyo comments that 950,000 people per year go missing in Magmell, and a third of them never return. Arriving at the facility, they open fire on the animals, while Inyo wonders why kell bears would attack the facility in the first place. The men manage to kill the kell bears, but Zero informs Inyo that a Skell Gargan is coming, the 7th ward's controller. Emilia wonders why it's coming, and Inyo explains it got lured by the kell bear's blood. The Skell Gargan starts throwing bounders and kills all the men on the ground. He then starts aiming at the helicopter. They manage to defend, but a bounder hits and makes them lose their ace, the dragon breath-piercing shell bomb. Having no other choice, they decide to retreat, but Inyo opens the helicopter door and jumps out with Emilia. They get to the bomb, and Inyo creates a missile launcher pad for it but wonders who he should aim it at, the Skell Gorgon or the facility. Inyo then creates and uses a megaphone and tells the researchers to release their hostages so they may be saved. Emilia's father gets reminded of Shuan and decides to release the young ones. The Skell Gargan gets closer, and Inyo orders Emilia to shoot. As the Skell Gargan is about to dodge the bomb, Inyo pushes it back, and the bomb hits and kills it. Emilia's father releases the kell bear cubs, which reveals that the adult kell bears attacked the facility in order to free their children. On the helicopter, the man leading the rescue party explains that the kell bear baby's blood can be refined into the hardest metal in existence. Inyo realizes the bullets they used against the adult kell bears are made of that metal, and that's why they were able to kill the kell bears despite the fact that they had steel skin. A few days later, the news reported that the helicopter had crashed due to unknown circumstances, but there were no casualties. Emilia tells Inyo that her father will no longer do any work in Magmell, and Inyo believes that is for the best. Inyo tries to take Zero's pudding while they watch an auction about the 7-colored dove, a bird capable of neutralizing all types of poison. The winner gets it for 1 billion seconds, but to their surprise, the man shows up on their doorstep with the bird. The man requests that Inyo find his friends who went missing in the 45th ward. Inyo guesses they must have been poisoned, and Zero adds that the 45th ward is known for its poisonous inhabitants. The man, Daesum, confirms and explains they were immigrants in Magmell, and he lost his friends 30 years ago. They were collecting poisonous insects and wanted to find which one was the most poisonous, but as his friends got poisoned as a result, he got scared, escaped by himself, and his family left Magmell. Even though it's been 30 years, Daesum wants to return to the place where he left his friends, and Inyo agrees to help. Arriving in Magmell, Zero informs Inyo that her radar detected a monster up ahead, but he hasn't been able to see it. As they continue, Inyo notices some flowers and heads towards them, but then creates Gatling guns and starts shooting as a giant butterfly named Chimergift appears. Inyo easily defeats it and brings the flower to the dove, explaining that while it's poisonous, it's a delicacy for their species. Arriving at the cave, Daesum recalls how they played as kids and put some poisonous insects and a bat in a jar to see which one would win, but as they open the jar to see, his friends got poisoned. Zero convinces Inyo to tell Daesum the truth, and he tells him that he is in luck and that his friends are still alive. A large scorpion monster then shows up, and Daesum realizes this is his friend Stua. Another monster, a giant bat, then appears, and Daesum realizes this is Stein. It is revealed that when they were poisoned, they did not die. Instead, they mutated into the creatures that they captured and were poisoned by. The monsters fight each other, and Daesum tries to reason with them. They seemingly remembered who he was and stopped. Daesum asks Inyo if they can use the dove and if it will remove the poison, and Inyo confirms that if they drink its blood, the poison will be gone, but they will die as the poison in their blood is now necessary for them to live. The monsters lead Daesum and Inyo to a tree they marked as kids and return to the cave. Daesum decides to free the dove, not wanting to kill anyone else. Inyo and Zero walk down the market, and they hear some commotion, and Belina Australia shows up, a miracle worker who went 8 times to Magmell and miraculously came back all 8 times. She announces her 9th trip, but Inyo tells Zero that she isn't a miracle worker but a Bloody Maria. Wondering why Inyo would say that, Zero starts her own investigation and reads online articles about Belina, which makes her out as a saint. She then uses her drone to spy on Belina's orphanage, but doesn't find anything unusual except Belina noticing her drone. Seeing an article on Belina on his computer, Inyo recalls how he met Belina. Years ago, he was with his master Shuan, and they heard a scream from a girl. Shuan goes and easily defeats the monster, explaining that this wasn't a place for a young woman, but Belina tells him she has something that she needs to do. During the night, charmed by her looks, Inyo sneaks out looking for her but is shocked by what he sees. On the next day, a group of people request that Inyo go to Magmell and save Belina, but he refuses. He wonders that if they cared for her that much, why did they let her leave in the first place? They explain that there were other people with her, but they lost contact with them too. Inyo comments that it wasn't advertised that other people were going with her and that she is a crook. The group of people reveal that the others volunteered to go with her to Magmell due to her status as a saint. Zero comments that she thinks Belina is a good person and that the children need her. Inyo still refuses, but Zero tells the people that she accepts the request. Zero heads out to Magmell and manages to find Belina and save her from a monster that killed her squad. Meanwhile, Inyo also decides to go to Magmell and ends up fighting the same type of monster that Shuan beat when they met Belina. He manages to injure the monster, but as it runs, he goes looking for it. Zero and Inyo then see that Belina has found the monster and has ripped it open, taking its heart. Covered in blood and with an evil smile, she comments that she can sell its heart for a high price and save more children. As more monsters surround them, Belina gets excited about how many organs she will be able to sell and runs off and hides. Seeing Belina's true side and not caring for the people who died for her, Zero stops Inyo from saving Belina and they leave. On the next day, news of Belina's death spreads, but the people refuse to accept it and say that she is now a god. Walking in the market, Zero comments that it's hard to say what's good and what's evil and how easily people cling to and get manipulated by things. Zero is surprised by what happened, but Inyo assures her that this was the first and last time that he was ever going to do this. Zero watches cat videos and is fascinated by them, finding them to be quite cute. She asks Inyo if they can have a cat, but he refuses and states that he hates cats and doesn't want any pets. Zero comments that he must be a monster to hate cats and that people watching cats makes them able to go through hard work, but Inyo guesses that it's some man's scheme to make people keep working obediently. Zero shows Inyo's hat and says that it has cat badges, but Inyo says they are not cats. She realizes they are not cats upon closer inspection and starts to wonder if they are important to Inyo, which he confirms. Inyo tells Zero about when he was with his master Shuen and how he told him that even though he was the strongest, he couldn't protect his family as he was also the most foolish one. One day, he finds a group of dead adventurers and a small, dog-cat-like animal. As he gains its trust, he decides to keep it and names it Toto. Shuen agrees they keep it. But when Inyo cuts himself while trying to make badges, Shuen steps in, keeping Toto away from the blood and carving the badges himself. Inyo spends time with Toto, manages to teach him fetch, and also realizes Toto is scared of water. One day, they find a hunter caught in a bear trap. Inyo realizes he was hunting animals and frees a bird he had caught. While the man tells him to help him out, Toto licks the man's blood on his leg, transforms into a large beast, and kills and eats the man. Toto then turns towards Inyo and tries attacking him, but Shuen comes in time and saves him. Seeing the monster, Shuen guesses it had drank blood, as that monster transforms when it drinks human blood. Shuen tells Inyo they can't revert it and to remember that this is Magmell. Shuen attempts to kill Toto, but Inyo tells Shuen that he will do it, and Inyo starts fighting Toto. As they fight, Toto stops for a moment as it sees its badge, and Inyo manages to kill him. Inyo tells Zero that it was also the first monster he had ever defeated, and he explains he needs more time before he can have another pet. A customer comes, who is a young girl crying and wanting Inyo to help her find her pet dog, and Inyo accepts much to Zero's delight. Emilia and Owens head towards Magmell's second ward, the Octagon of Evil. Owens assures Emilia they are safe in the Sky Whale 2 helicopter, but soon they get attacked by frogs spitting rocks, and a strange human stretches its arm and takes down the helicopter. Zero was enjoying some marshmallows, as she brought quite a few boxes since they were on sale. Chester, Emilia's father, visits them and explains that Emilia got lost in the Octagon of Evil. Inyo realizes she isn't just lost, and Chester explains that a mysterious creature took the helicopter down. Inyo comments that the price will be doubled since last time, as they assumed that they knew everything about Magmell and ventured there again despite the fact that Inyo had warned them. Chester comments that Inyo is very similar to Shuen and wonders how he is doing, but Inyo doesn't know and comments that the price has tripled now. Chester accepts, but Zero also forces Chester to eat a full bowl of marshmallows as part of the deal. Inyo and Chester head towards Magmell. Emilia and Owens receive backup, but the helicopters are all completely destroyed by the mysterious creature. Zero confirms Inyo's suspicion that it is indeed Aaron, the indigenous people of Magmell. Owens' men try to attack Aaron, but she easily destroys their weapons. Inyo explains that it doesn't like weapons and would attack if you carried one. As Aaron targets Inyo's helicopter, he realizes that Chester is carrying a gun, and they jump out as Aaron destroys their helicopter. Aaron is the primitive tribe of Magmell, but they are largely unknown as a large fog is covering them up. Those who know Magmell know them and their overwhelming and terrifying powers. Inyo faces Aaron, who realizes he is a latchter. He attacks Inyo and seemingly enjoys his fight, but even though it is fast, it is no match for Inyo, who seemingly kills Aaron. Emilia tries to explain to Inyo that Aaron wasn't an enemy, but Inyo tells her he already knew. Inyo reveals that he hit Aaron with marshmallows, and as Aaron tries them, he finds them delicious. Some of the frogs join in too, and they also like the marshmallows. Aaron explains that he just wants to live a peaceful life, and Inyo promises they won't return ever again. Inyo tells Chester that if they return, not only Aaron will be their enemy, but he as well. Chester agrees to not return but feels he needs to reward Inyo with something more than just the reward money. Inyo tells him to replace his helicopter and buy some food other than marshmallows. Inyo and Zero explore Magmell, trying to collect some mushrooms and other food as they are broke and can't afford to buy any. They reach an abandoned town, but a man with a gun holds Inyo captive in a coffee shop. The man asks Inyo what he was doing there, and Inyo explains he was trying to gather some food as he was broke and has no intention of harming or disturbing him. The man then releases him and tells him to leave. At the coffee shop, the man recalls a time when he was selling coffee in the shop and his daughter was helping him out. Later, Inyo and Zero encounter an edible monster and go after it, but a rare mole monster appears and eats it before they capture it. Inyo explains that it was the first time he had seen such a monster, as usually they only come once every 10 years and only when they are really hungry. As they walk around, they find a graveyard. The man from the shop appears and fires 2 warning shots, telling Inyo to leave. Zero is angry that the man shot at Inyo, but he explains that he missed on purpose and that there is something that he protects. Hearing some noises, the man follows them and encounters the mole monster, the same one that attacked the town years ago and killed dozens of its citizens, including his daughter Isa. The man had wounded the mole monster in its right eye before he was knocked out by the mole monster. He attempts to shoot the mole monster but misses his shot, and the monster manages to knock him back. The man stands up again, and with Inyo's secret assistance in tripping the monster, the man manages to shoot it in its mouth and kill it, avenging all those that fell to the mole monster, including his daughter. In the morning, the man returns to his coffee shop to find Inyo waiting there. Inyo hands him the necklace his daughter Isa had and that the man dropped during his fight with the mole monster. The man then invites Inyo for a cup of coffee, and Inyo comments that he has never waited so long for a cup of coffee. Zero is shocked to see a woman sitting on Inyo's lap and spoon-feeding him some pudding. She asks him who she is, and Inyo explains that she is their new secretary. Zero then wakes up and realizes this was a dream, but since a flirty lady like her can appear, she decides to become an elegant lady before it happens. Zero goes out secretly and sees a clothing store with a nice suit in the window. But to her surprise, Emilia appears and recognizes her. Emilia realizes Zero is checking out the suit and takes her in to try it, but even the smallest size was too big for Zero. They try a few more clothes, and the seller and Emilia both find Zero to be cute in them. Outside, Zero explains that she wants to be an elegant woman, and while Emilia tries to think of something, Dasim passes by and sees Zero. He again thanks Zero for helping him out before and takes them to a restaurant, where Zero eats a couple of desserts. Hearing that Zero tries to become an elegant woman, he proposes a new hairstyle and takes her to a hairstylist. The stylist gives her a few bad hairstyles and, in the end, changes her hair color to black, and Zero is reminded of the woman in her dreams. Dasim and Emilia agree that she looks nice but needs more height. They visit Dendon's shop, wanting to find medicine that would make Zero taller. Dendon explains that there is a fruit in Magmell that would make you taller, and they force Dendon to lead them into Magmell to find the fruit. Zero decides not to tell Inyo about it, and they go to Magmell using Dasim's helicopter. Arriving there, Dasim suggests they first eat, and his servants prepare a table and food. A small monster appears, and Dendon decides to impress Emilia and shoot it, but Zero goes ahead and feeds him, explaining it was an herbivore. They go on their journey and eventually find the fruit. Emilia helps Zero reach one, and Zero then feeds it to Dendon. Dendon felt nothing had changed, but then saw his legs getting so much longer. Not being the fruit they seek, they continue and find another one that Dendon eats by accident, and his head becomes longer. They found a third fruit that made Dendon way too big. A large snail monster attacks them. It spits some seeds around them, and they turn into plants surrounding and capturing the group. The monster is about to eat them, but Inyo arrives and saves them. Inyo takes on the monster and gets its attention. The group then forms a plan to escape and feeds Dendon with the fruit that made him big, breaking free from the plants. They feed him the leg-extending fruit, which makes him kick the snail but lose his balance and fall. Then they feed him the head-extending fruit, and as his head extends, it hits the snail and turns him over, giving Inyo a chance, which he defeats. Later, Zero apologizes to Inyo for not telling him about her travels to Magmell, but she saw a book that Dendon had, and Inyo explained that he sold him that book and it was fake. Inyo reminds Zero to tell him next time and wonders if she had fun, which she confirms. Inyo finishes a request, and Zero comments that they got lucky as they didn't have any money for food, so they make plans on what to eat tonight. Inyo hears someone laugh and sees a man playing with a monster. The man introduces himself as Rupert and says that he is an ecologist and is researching the area, discovering new animal species. Rupert takes Inyo to a tree with nests of encore peckers. He explains that he is taking care of them because their mother went missing. Rupert sees a new animal and quickly rushes towards it, but Inyo and Zero recognize it and stop him from getting closer as the animal emits miasma that causes hallucinations. They explain that the hallucination would cause them to experience their worst nightmare. Rupert then recalls seeing strange, unnatural cases of dead animals recently. Meanwhile, DJZ and Baby Fat are recording themselves throwing darts at a young animal that they tied to a tree. They comment that their last video was a hit and they need to record more. As they kill the animal, they don't feel satisfied, and as they see some birds flying around in the sky, they notice the encore pecker's nest. DJZ then suggests they burn the tree, and he calls it his 3-minute cooking show. Rupert and Inyo notice the fire and return to the tree, but it's too late, and all the baby chicks have died due to the fire. Rupert is left devastated, and then Inyo realizes this was arson and sends Zero to scout the area. Zero manages to find them, and Rupert brandishes a knife filled with rage intent on getting revenge. He and Inyo then leave and find the two. Rupert asks why they did it, but DJZ explains there are no birds on Magmell, only monsters, and that Rupert also grills and eats chicken. DJZ then burns a lizard that secretes oil, and Rupert, seeing this, becomes enraged and jumps on him, telling him to apologize and threatening him with a knife. Inyo shows the lizard is fine and tells them since they grilled it, they need to eat it, but Baby Fat just runs away scared. He then stops Rupert, telling him not to get on DJZ's level, and explains they need to get away as the monster is coming and that Baby Fat has run towards it. Inyo ties up DJZ and explains their worst nightmare is coming, and Rupert realizes what he is talking about. Baby Fat encounters the monster, the same one they had encountered earlier, and starts screaming as he sees his worst nightmare. Zero then baits the monster for DJZ, who thinks it's nothing serious, but as the monster releases the hallucination miasma, he starts screaming about the things he is hallucinating. Later, Zero recorded DJZ screaming and uploaded it to his channel. Rupert apologizes and explains he was ready to kill them and that he acted like a hypocrite, but Inyo tells him it's okay, as he didn't end up killing them. But when Rupert asks Inyo if he's killed anyone, he doesn't comment, instead giving him a stern look. Zero wakes up in the morning to find Inyo already up and not wanting breakfast. She can't believe her eyes and wonders if something has happened. But Inyo explains that it's nothing and that he has some minor business to take care of. As he leaves, she notices the calendar has today's date marked and Shu written on it. Zero calls Amelia, Chester, Daysum, and Dendon, and they meet at a restaurant. She shares her concern about Inyo, and Dendon guesses it must be a woman, but Zero throws a fork in his forehead. As she comments on the symbol Shu on the calendar, Chestar wonders if it has something to do with Shuin and asks Zero how she met Inyo. Zero recalls how Inyo came to the facility she was held in and saved her, but tells the rest that when they met, he flirted with her. As they start a bit of a commotion, wondering if that is true, the waiter comes by and shoots a warning shot with a rifle, telling them to calm down. Meanwhile, secretly, a man observes Zero. Inyo travels to Magmell and the place where he lived with Shuin. He cleans the place and recalls a conversation with Shuin, who tells him to return to the human world and that they probably won't meet again. Shuin then gives him a picture of Zero and tells him that if he meets her, he should protect her. Zero returns to their office and finds the man who held her in the facility before. He wants her to return to him and be obedient again, but Zero refuses. He then shows a man entering Dendon's store and blowing himself up, destroying the store with Dendon inside. The man reveals he is also tracking Amelia, Daysum, Chester, and Taboo. Having no choice, Zero accepts and puts on his collar. Later, Inyo returns and finds a video call showing the man had taken Zero again. Inyo recalls how he went to the facility and saved Zero from him. He explains it's revenge for what he had done before and shows Amelia, Daysum, Taboo, and Chester's video feeds and how hooded people are approaching them and blowing themselves up. He explains that he will be waiting in the same facility if he survives. Inyo then turns around and sees a man behind him, who then reveals himself to be under the control of some sort of monster that causes him to blow himself up. At the facility, Zero recalls how the man was releasing monsters for her to fight, driving her to exhaustion in order to draw and activate her strongest power. Zero wonders if Inyo is still alive after the explosion. She is then given food and notices other children that she has seen before in the facility. Zero wonders if they are Latchers too, and Unix 6 tells her they are no longer and explains how they escaped when Inyo destroyed the facility but were later recaptured and their powers taken by the man. Men then come and take the children, and the man later puts mind-controlling, exploding bugs on their heads. Inyo manages to survive the explosion by creating a shield and reaching the facility. The man sees Inyo coming, but tells Zero that he is dead and shows her footage from the explosion. Crying over his death, Zero recalls past moments when she spent time with him. Inyo enters the facility, and then a man awaits him. He tells him that for Inyo, it looks like something from the past, but he remembers what happened between them like it was yesterday. The man explains that he is stronger than Inyo, but Inyo doesn't care and just asks where Zero is. The man orders his men to attack him, causing them to explode when they get close to him, but Inyo still survives. Zero hears the explosions and wonders what's going on. As Inyo gets injured and the man runs out of men, he goes to face him himself. Inyo tries to attack him with a sword, but the man also uses a sword and stabs Inyo in the leg, revealing that he has become a Latcher too. Burton explains that he had to gather 58 Latchers but was finally able to obtain Latcher powers himself and is now stronger than Inyo, and that he would be a good test subject. Inyo explains that he also changed from back then and prepares to fight him, but Burton shows him that he has Zero with a collar that he can make explode. Inyo stops fighting, and Burton proceeds to beat him, but Inyo tricks him into breaking the window, making Zero hear him and realize that he is still alive. Inyo tells Burton that he can't use the bomb, as otherwise he won't be able to take revenge on him. Inyo tells Zero to remember how they met, and at the same time, Burton uses a sword and slashes Inyo from behind. Zero recalls how she met Inyo and how he saved her, promising to protect her and give her 3 meals a day. how they settled on her calling him Sir instead of Master, and calling her Zero instead of Unit Zero. Hearing that Burton tells Inyo he will free Zero if he gets on his knees and begs, Zero recalls the time she was doing that. Not wanting Inyo to do it, she uses her power, frees herself, and attacks Burton with her drone. Inyo then stands up and easily defeats Burton. Zero takes Inyo to her and apologizes for causing him trouble, but he explains he promised to protect her and wants to go home and eat dinner. Burton shows up, eats multiple fruits and veggies to get power, and turns into a meat blob. Inyo cuts his head, but Burton regenerates. Inyo and Zero manage to get outside, but Burton follows them. He tries to smash Inyo with a large hammer and thinks he succeeds, but Inyo creates large hands and crushes Burton along with the facility. Zero and Inyo achieve victory, but Zero remembers the others are dead and gets sad. Inyo reveals they are okay and had checked on each other before coming for Zero. Zero asks Inyo where he was during the day, and he explains he went to Shuin's place as he goes there from time to clean it. Inyo tells Zero that one day he will go deep in Magmell and will want Zero to help him, and she accepts happily. Thank you for watching till the end, and please don't forget to subscribe.